As Hayek argued, the destruction of private property rights can have disastrous consequences for social order. Mao's collectivization campaign provides a striking example of the dangers of eradicating these foundations of a free civilization. The catastrophic effects of this campaign were documented by Dutch historian Frank Dikötter in his book, The Tragedy of Liberation. According to Dikötter, the first decade of Maoism was one of the worst tyrannies in the history of the 20th century, resulting in the premature deaths of at least 5 million civilians and untold misery for countless others. Mao's collectivization campaign was marked by the systematic eradication of property rights, which led to a breakdown of social order and a rise in theft and anarchy. Without property rights, villagers were encouraged to share their animals and tools with their neighbors. However, this led to a shortage of plowing animals and tools, which in turn made it difficult to maintain agricultural production. Theft became more common, as entire villages sank into a form of open anarchy where every bit of property became fair game. Dikötter explained that the Maoists had no regrets about eliminating private property. They merely decried the complete breakdown of order as an unintended consequence. The party, which initially welcomed the destruction of order, eventually came to fear social breakdown and anarchy. Collectivization introduced perverse incentives that distorted human behavior and led to impoverishment. Villagers abandoned years of frugality and slaughtered their animals, causing a shortage of working animals, food, fodder, and tools. In some cases, there was not enough seed to plant the next crop. Even with sufficient seed, the job was badly carried out, with sprouts distributed unevenly over the fields. As Hayek predicted, without private property, freedom disappeared. Dikötter reported that ignorant and often brutal cadres issued orders while ignoring the conditions of the local economy. Villagers were locked up in meetings all night long, animals starved to death, and tools were lacking. In some villages, 4 out of 5 residents had no food to eat. Lending had come to a complete halt, as everybody feared being stigmatized as an exploiter. The poor had nowhere to go, as charitable institutions from the old regime had been disbanded. Dikötter described what today we might recognize as a cancel culture. It started in the early days of Mao's tyranny, as villagers who refused to go along with collectivization ran the risk of being called unpatriotic, Chiang Kai-shek roaders, or backward elements. In some cases, cultivators who preferred to remain independent had strips of paper pinned on their backs, denouncing them as capitalists or go-it-aloners. The Chinese environment was trashed as traditional village rights and customs were neglected or destroyed. Dikötter described how there was a scramble over common resources that had not been confiscated and redistributed with land reform, such as pastures, moorlands, or salt marshes where animals were allowed to graze, or riverbanks and woodlands where children collected firewood. People tried to grab what they could before the state collectivized everything. In Huashen County, Guangdong, a crowd of 200 fought over the forest, resulting in many injuries. In Maoming, a village organized a team of 300 to cut down the trees belonging to a neighboring hamlet. The tragedy of Mao's collectivization campaign underscores the importance of private property rights in maintaining social order and promoting human welfare. As Hayek warned, it may be beyond our power deliberately to reconstruct a free civilization once the foundations of private property are destroyed. Subscribe Libertarian Facts.